Guys, I'm Lou Consoli with SkippyFish Bait Company. We're at the Philly Sportsman's Outdoors Show here in Oaks, Pennsylvania, and I got some awesome baits that I'm going to talk to you about. Man, I got a bait called a SkippyFish that is kick butt. Let me introduce it to you and show you what we got. Here is what a SkippyFish looks like. It's a 4-inch bait. I also got them in 6-inch and also in 2-inch. But let me show you something. Let me tell you why this bait is awesome compared to the rest of them on the market. This is a fluke or jerkbait style type bait, okay? This is our baby bass color. There's 3 properties to this bait why it makes it so unique. One is the body design is kind of shaped like a bass boat. It's like a V-hole on a bass boat. It's a V shape with a flat back. Why is that important? The reason why it's important is when you have that in the water and you're using it, say for instance, as a top water bait, you want to make sure that it looks as realistic as possible. With this type of bait in the water, our SkippyFish, when you throw it out there, okay, preferably say a 2-aught hook with a 4-inch SkippyFish, you're going to use a 4-aught hook on a 6-inch SkippyFish. But let's just say I use this 4-inch SkippyFish. I got them on 8-pound test on a good medium action spinning rod. I throw that thing out there. The beautiful thing about this design is it sits down in the water like a bass boat. Why that's important is when you start twitching that thing back, it's not going to have a tendency to roll. It's going to cut through the water like it should. It's going to look real natural. The other reason why this is really important as far as the design of my bait and why it's really unique is the tail. Man, this thing is deadly. The tail, when we designed it, is vertical, so it has a swimming action back and forth. So not only can you throw it on the top, say over grass beds, lily pads, stumps, trees, and things like that, you also can fish this with the jig head. Let's just say you wanted to bounce this on the bottom. Let's say you got your favorite smallmouth fishing hole, and you put a little jig head on here, say a shaky head, say a 1/4 ounce, and you just pop this thing off the bottom in between the rocks. This little tail absolutely goes crazy. It looks like a little bait fish feeding. If there's any current at all, if you're fishing a river system or a stream, if you're fishing a lake that has a dam that's pooling water, if there's any kind of current, whether it's through wind or what, this little tail goes like crazy and it looks like a bait fish feeding. The other reason why this design is so important is the tail. We designed that tail exactly like, say, a dolphin or a whale type shape. And what it does when I lift it up is it adds just enough weight to create that bend. So when you're fishing with this bait, especially on the top over a grass bed, when you start twitching that thing, this tail goes like crazy and starts spitting up a bunch of waters, which looks like a multiple bait fish busting on the water, and that's what's so cool about it. But here's another cool thing that we got. It's our chartreuse and colored markers. These markers are formulated specifically to adhere to soft plastic baits. Now you say, what am I going to need a marker for? Can I just get a Sharpie or a highlighter and use it? No, if you use a highlighter on your baits, it'll just wash right off. But let me show you why this is important. This formulation with our chartreuse markers will adhere to these baits so that you can actually match the hatch or modify your baits when you're on the water. Here's the whole deal to that. Let's just say, for instance, you're fishing up at Lake Champlain. Real clear water, a lot of grass, a lot of hard bottom to it, and you're fishing for some smallmouth. If you're on smallmouth and you're throwing our little baby bass SkippyFish, this 4-inch one, all of a sudden you're banging a heck of them, you're knocking them dead for a half hour, and all of a sudden they turn off. And you're wondering, man, what just happened? And you start searching, you're trying to hone in on your environment, and you notice that you got a bunch of perch swimming in and out of those grass beds, and they happen to be small. Let me show you how to turn a baby bass SkippyFish into a perch pattern in a matter of 30 or 40 seconds. You ready for this? It's wild. If you take our chartreuse marker and right where our lamination line is, where that green is and that pearl belly is, if we just put a chartreuse stripe down the side, just like that. By the way, just like that, it's deadly. But if we take another bit of our chartreuse marker and put it down the side, now we've created one of the colors to our chartreuse SkippyFish, trying to create a perch pattern. Now if I get one of my orange markers and I doctor up that belly with a little bit of orange, just like that, just like that, you start to emulate a perch pattern. You see how that's coming together? Now if I want to get a little crazy and I want to really create the stripes in a perch pattern, or if I want to just take it and make it look like a fire tiger type bait, I'll just add a couple little dots down the side of that thing. And what you end up doing is, a matter of a minute or so, right on the water, you take a baby bass SkippyFish and turn it into a perch pattern. Now you throw that bait in, and now you've just matched the hatch. That's why having markers in your tackle box, whether you're throwing a SkippyFish, whether it's a lizard, a grub, a soft plastic, it doesn't matter. If you're throwing soft plastic, you gotta have one of these markers. I always have a chartreuse. Listen, here's a cool little tip. If you love to throw a little finesse worm, say on a shaky head, we love green pumpkin, watermelon reds. Man, if you just take a chartreuse marker on your green pumpkin little worm that you like to throw, on the back of a tube, you're coloring those tentacles. On the back of a lizard, you dip that tail. That chartreuse in the water is absolutely awesome. Those little fish will pick at it, but you also catch some huge fish. For you trout fishermen out there, for the crappie fishermen out there, let me introduce you to this SkippyFish. It's a 2-inch SkippyFish. Absolutely awesome. This is our alewife color. This is a 2-inch size. We package it with a free 16th ounce jig head. You get 8 of them in a pack. This is absolutely awesome as well for trout, for crappie, for perch, for brim. Let me show you what this thing looks like. We go right over here. Here's a little XE shad model. Now the difference between this little 2-inch size that we have and say our 4-inch size really is just a hook slot. We have a hook slot in our 4-inch, 6-inch size, which allows you to hide an offset hook. When it comes to our 2-inch size, that tail is still deadly, still the same tail, but it's a solid body. If you're trout fishing and you go out onto a stream and you take a size 8, a size 10, or a size 12 hook, and you just put the tip of that hook through the nose of this, and you allow that nose of that little SkippyFish to be in the bend of that hook so that it actually can swivel back and forth, and you're on a stream. Let's say that stream's real fast water. You're going to take a little tiny split shot and put it right up against that hook to allow this thing to go down the stream, and that little tail is going to go like crazy. Now, if that water's a little bit slower, take that split shot, put it up 6 inches, maybe a foot, maybe 2 foot higher, so that if that SkippyFish is coming down a stream, this thing looks absolutely natural. That little hook and that little SkippyFish is wiggling down here. That split shot's way over here. It's allowing this thing to present itself in a very natural way. It looks like a little tiny bait fish. And man, if you're a trout fisherman, you're going to score a ton more catches with a little SkippyFish like that. The tail basically is the magic. It does all the work. And if you love the crappie fish, you just put a little 32nd ounce or a 16th ounce jig head on that thing. You can jig that over a brush pile and it just drives those crappie crazy. So that's your tip for today, whether it's a 2-inch, 4-inch, or maybe a 6-inch, whether you're saltwater fishing, whether you're bass fishing, or you're just out there having some fun with the kids, trout fishing, or doing some crappie fishing, man, you can't beat a SkippyFish. I'm Lou Consoli. The next time you want to see one of these, and if you want to put some of them in your hands, you can go to SkippyFish.com, order you some, we'll ship them out to you within 48 hours, and you'll be out fishing with one of the most deadliest topwater baits and most versatile baits you'll ever put in your tackle box.